By way of example, let's say you have a project of documentation files. You could dump the following settings into a .tm_properties file at the root of that project. The above shows the three kinds of things you can configure. First, you can set textmate variables, as I did with tmgit. The Git bundle helps me manage my commits while staying inside textmate, but it needs to know where the Git executable is installed to do that. It assumes a MacPorts install location by default, so I just redirected it to my homebrew install here. The second section shows how to set textmate settings. Here I've entered the font name and font size I prefer to work with. The third section also configures a setting, but it shows how you can restrict settings to certain file types. In this case I've used a shell blob to specify that the setting be applied to files with a plain text or markdown extension. I want to wrap those files, but not any other code files that may be in the project. textmate 2 will apply each setting when working with any file under the project folder. Different projects can have different settings per your case. From folders to global defaults. Now, as you probably already figured out, these files don't have to be project-wide settings. It's just a file in a folder as far as textmate 2 is concerned, and it will always affect every file below it. Given that, you can adjust the settings for just part of a project by adding a .tm_properties file to that folder. You might apply some settings to the project as a whole, but then override them for the doc folder, for example. This works because textmate 2 walks up the current file path, looking for .tm_properties files. All of those settings apply, with lower files overriding higher files as needed. The search stops with the current user's home directory, or the root directory. However, if the root directory is reached, the current user's home directory is added to the search above it. This makes it possible to create a .tm_properties with global default settings that always apply, even if you edit files outside of your home directory. Smart settings. You can accomplish some pretty cool voodoo by playing with these configuration files. For example, here's some of the project settings used to build textmate 2. The first thing you should notice here is that we are allowed to use textmate variables, as well as set them. This allows us to configure the project's makefile using $cwd for current working directory. This works because the .tm_properties file is in the root directory of the project, and that will be the value of $cwd. The make target for the textmate 2 project is set elsewhere, not shown, but we see another use of variables to override it for the test on the last line here. Note that it's possible to use regex replacements on these variables, just as we could in a snippet. Finally, the powerful scope attribute setting is used here to add a scope to all content in the testing files. This is also helpful for the activation of special snippets when working in these files. As you can see, it's possible to show textmate 2 how you want to work with each of your projects. You could even set which language files should be spell check or in, on a folder by folder and/or file type basis. The settings. A list of the available settings is available, as well as a guide with more information.